Now that it's June, I decided that I would finally release my way too early NFL predictions. And spoilers, some of you are going to be really upset with this list, and some of you are going to really love this list. Now, before we get started, make sure you like today's video. We're trying to get to 250 likes, which is a pretty big and impressive accomplishment in June, if you ask me. So do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button before we get started. All right, record predictions, like I say. And of course, these are way too early predictions. Obviously, OTAs and minicamp are officially over for the majority of NFL teams. So I just decided that after all of what we've seen and what we've heard from those reports, it is time to give a way too early prediction before the preseason officially begins. All right, let's start with the AFC North. We're going to kind of go division by division here. We're going to start with the Cleveland Browns over at number 4 at 5-12. Really a huge question mark right now at quarterback. What are they going to do? Are they going with Shedeur Sanders? Are they going with Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco? Obviously, it's a carnival, a roller coaster of quarterbacks out there, and I just don't see this being a productive and, good season for Cleveland, albeit I think they're getting back on the right track, especially with the two running backs they drafted in Quinshad Judkins and Dylan Sampson. Let's go to number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, death taxes and Mike Tomlin going above 500, right? Those are the 3 guarantees in life. I don't see Aaron Rodgers making a huge impact on the Steelers. I feel like it's going to be more of the same of what you saw last year. So 9-8 feels like a very safe spot to put the Steelers, and I have them just missing out on the playoffs. How about number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals? I usually, have a kind of an up and down feeling about the Bengals every single season because they always start so poorly, but they were on fire at the very end of last season. Almost made the playoffs. So I think they go 10-7 despite all of their defensive woes. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that trio feeds families. And then, of course, your division winner, the Baltimore Ravens. Clearly the best team in the AFC North. Lamar Jackson, King Henry, the best dynamic quarterback, running back duo outside of maybe a Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, but Lamar's better than Hurts. So you could go either way with one of those. Now, some players to kind of monitor in this division, one being Shedeur Sanders, the 5th-round pick by the Browns, obviously. We don't need to go into the drama that was the draft with him, but when does he start? I kind of staked my claim around week 8 for Shedeur Sanders. And then Aaron Rodgers, the brand new quarterback for the Steelers. Is this his final year, the swan song to the NFL? We're not entirely sure. I expect more of what he did last year in terms of his production, somewhere around 25 to 28 touchdowns and around 10 picks. So we'll see how he fares in Pittsburgh. All right. I also want to do this at the end of every single division. Let's pick the playoff teams because you got to at least do that. You can't just be like, oh, here's your division predictions and then move on. I think the Ravens and the Bengals end up making the playoffs here for the AFC North as the 2 teams that make it in this division. Let's move on now to the AFC. I want to say, did I put the AFC East? Yeah, I put the AFC East. That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Producer. The New York Jets coming in at number 4, 6-11. Justin Fields is now the quarterback, new head coach. They seem to be wanting to put the trains back on the tracks, but the truth is they're in a rebuild. So I don't see the Jets being better than a 6-win team, and I think that's kind of being generous. I think their floor is about 3 wins, but 6-11 just to be safe. How about the Miami Dolphins? This is one of those NFL purgatory teams, in my opinion. Offensively, kind of dynamic still with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but Tua is always injured, concussion issues. I just don't see them being anything outside of like a 7-10 team at the lowest, but I also think at the highest, they're only really like a 9-8 team. So I have them going 7-10 because I think it's going to be a down year. Then our first surprise team, in my opinion here, the New England Patriots going 9-8. Had one of the best off seasons in the entire NFL. Drake May is only getting better. They now have Mike Vrabel as a head coach who is going to be a godsend to that organization because we've seen what he was able to do with the Tennessee Titans. They also have a cakewalk of a schedule throughout the first 8 weeks. So I actually have the Patriots starting 5-3 in their first 8, and I think they end the season at 9-8, which leaves the Buffalo Bills at 13-4 to win the division. This is not a hot take. The Bills are clearly the best team in the division, and they got better on defense. Couple players to keep an eye out on the AFC East. Drake May, number one, obviously came in last year and started for Jacoby Brissett. That's the name. Jacoby Brissett last year, who started the season. This is really going to be the first test of what you can see from Drake May, and is he going to be the guy going forward? And also Tua. I say this because is Tua going to, have another injury? And if so, is his playing career done? We've seen that fencing thing multiple times, and it's just an ugly, ugly sight to see. So I hope he stays healthy, because when he's on the field, the Dolphins are much better, but I just don't know, and that's a big question mark for me. Playoff team, Buffalo Bills. Sorry, Mr. Producer on the 1s and 2, Alper, who's a huge Patriots fan. I think they just narrowly miss heading into the playoffs. I think the Buffalo Bills are the only ones from the AFC East. Do you agree with my AFC predictions so far? Let me know. Are they good? Are they bad? Let me know in the comment section down below. Right now, I think these are pretty spot on, but then again, it's my list. So what are you going to do? All right, AFC West, another huge shakeup division, in my opinion. I think you can kind of already see where I'm going with this. The Raiders at 6-11, they'll have the trains back on the track, bringing in Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. They were a dumpster fire of an organization last year. One of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL. They get slightly better, but only at 6 wins. They're not going to be that good. Then the Los Angeles Chargers. I know the Chargers are one of those teams that everybody is like, we're not entirely sure. Are they going to be good like they were last year, or are they going to take a step back? I think they're going to be right around the same. They're going to have a stout defense, but their limitations are only going to be based off of what Justin Herbert can or cannot do inside the playoffs. Now, I think they go 9-8. And I say that because this division is getting much, much harder, especially with my number 2 team here, the Kansas City Chiefs. Doesn't win the AFC West? Crazy take. But yes, I thought the Chiefs last year escaped with not only help from the refs, I know I'm going to be a conspiracy guy, but also they weren't that, they were a good team, don't get me wrong. But if you watched them play, there were multiple games where they got outplayed and managed a way to squeak out a win, which leads me to my team that's going to win the AFC West, the Denver Broncos at 12-5. It's narrow, but the Denver Broncos are the number 1 defense in the NFL, and I don't think it's that close. They were number 1 in sacks last year with 63. They're going to be nuts. Now, 3 teams from this division make the playoffs: the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. I think there's going to be a 9-8 team where it's going to come down to a tiebreaker, and I think the Chargers over the Patriots get in and squeak in for that 7 seed. Players to watch out for: Bo Nix entering the year 2. How is he going to adapt to Sean Payton's offense? I think clearly you saw last year the maturation of his skill set heading later on into the year, but he did start with some really bad rookie growing pains. And then Patrick Mahomes, does he bounce back after that humiliating Super Bowl loss? I think so. He's still the best quarterback in the NFL, no doubt, future Hall of Famer. So I look at Patrick Mahomes and I say, don't worry about it. But I do think the Chiefs take a slight step back and go 11-6. AFC South, Tennessee Titans, they suck. No offense to Cam Ward and company, but they're really just trying to reset this franchise and this organization. They're not going to be good. Now, the Colts. I've heard a lot of different opinions about the Colts at that 3rd spot, where a lot of people have said they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. But truthfully, even with the worst quarterback statistically last year in Anthony Richardson, they still managed to be okay. Now, Daniel Jones comes in. Is he going to end up starting? Who's to say? He probably will, but I still think the Colts are kind of in that purgatory stage as well. I think they go 7-10. The Jaguars get a big bounce back year, and I say big, going under 500. They go 8-9, but now that Liam Cohen is out there, Trevor Lawrence and company on offense are going to look much better. I think the Jaguars have the ability to go from the worst in the division last year to at least 8-9, which is manageably respectable. And then, of course, the Texans win the whole thing, 11-6. C.J. Stroud, DeMeco Ryans, unbelievable head coach quarterback combo. I don't think there's any contesting here in the AFC South, which in my opinion is one of the worst divisions in football. Players to watch out for: Cam Ward. How is he going to adapt to the NFL? What does he look like? And I think that, it's going to start rocky and potentially get better as the season goes on. Trevor Lawrence, how does he look with new head coach? I think, being the number 1 overall pick, you saw last year was a very, very bad year for him. So hopefully he gets back on track and shows everybody why he was the number 1 overall pick. Only playoff team from this division, the Houston Texans. I think that goes without saying. Like I said, one of the worst divisions in football. It's not going to be close. Texans are the only ones that get it. Whew. All right. Now let's move on to the NFC. And I know that this is going to be a long video. We've got to cover all NFL teams. But stay with me. We've got the NFC predictions coming up here in just a little bit. But first, before I do that, make sure that you start using this link to shop Fanatics with our friends with these NFL polos. Listen, the Patriots, you've got all the favorite NFL teams right there, like the Raiders as well. I love to go golfing. These are perfect for the NFL summer. All you got to do is buy these from the Fanatics store right here at 60% off. Chatsports.com/NFL Polo. Father's Day is coming up. It's actually this weekend. So if you want a last-minute gift for your dad, one of these would do greatly. Again, comments and description of today's video, chatsports.com/NFL Polo. Start with the NFC South. The Saints, one of the worst, if not the worst team in football this year. I apologize to all Saints fans. I don't think the Saints are good at all. Tell me one area that they're good in. I'll wait. I don't think you can. They're just not a good team. Tyler Shuck is most likely going to be your starting quarterback. And how much do you trust a really old rookie to lead that team to, its glory days? But truth is, I don't think the Saints are good at all. Then the Panthers, again, one of those teams that if you would ask me a couple of years ago, I was like, dude, this team might not beat a UFL team. But the truth is that they've gotten better and better and better with head coach Dave Canales out there. I think they go 7-10. I still don't believe that highly in Bryce Young, but the truth is their roster is getting better. So I think they're much more manageable and respectable with that number 3 slot at 7-10. Then the Falcons. It was really tough for me to place the Falcons. I couldn't really tell where I wanted them, so I have them at 8-9. I don't know what Michael Penix is yet. Is he the left-handed Goff? If so, they could end up being a really good team. But is he that good? It remains to be seen. We only saw him in, 4 games last year, so I'm not entirely sure. I went 8-9 just to be safe. And, of course, the winner of this division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Losing Liam Cohen, your offensive coordinator, is tough. However, this roster is just too good to not win this division, especially with a team like the Saints. I think the Buccaneers win it at 10-7. Now, a couple players to keep an eye on. Michael Penix Jr., like I said. How's he going to be? Is he the left-handed Goff? Not entirely sure. But I do know this. It's going to be interesting. He's going to be one of those players I have my eye on for the remainder of the 2025 season. And Tyler Shuck, really old rookie. He's like 26 years old already, and he's not even an NFL quarterback, or at least, not yet. So it'll be interesting to see if he ends up getting the start, him or Spencer Rattler with Derek Carr retiring. I think Shuck gets the nod, but we're going to, again, have to keep an eye on him as well. Only playoff team from this division, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's pretty easy. I don't think an 8-9 team squeezes into the NFC with an 8-9 record into the playoffs. Let's go to the NFC East. New York Giants, 6-11. The Giants had a really good draft and a really good offseason. I just look at this and I say, they're still not good enough, and this is a gauntlet of a division. So I think they get better than they were last year, but 6-11 feels just about right. The Dallas Cowboys at 8-9. I think the Cowboys take a massive step back. Brian Schottenheimer is now your head coach. It's one of those things like the Cowboys never do anything during the offseason. They try to rebuild through the draft, and I thought they did okay in the draft, but losing Mike McCarthy and you're still having a really expensive quarterback in Dak Prescott, I don't think they can compete with the other two heavyweights in this division, which number 2 being the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, unbelievable season last year. I don't think he regresses, but I also think there's going to be more tape on him. So I feel like a season like he had last year, which was unbelievable, is still well within the realm of possibilities for them. And I have them going 11-6, number 2 in the division. Does this really need to be said? Most stacked roster in the NFL. Super Bowl champions. Philadelphia Eagles go 13-4. They win this division outright. Probably the number 1 seed as well. All right. Players to keep an eye on. Jaden Daniels, obviously, like I said, one of the players that shot out of a cannon last year. Seems to be a top 10 quarterback already in the NFL, even after his rookie season. Going to be really interesting to watch his progression. And Jackson Dart. When does he start? Does Russ have the entire year, or is his leash a little bit shorter? I think it probably is just a little bit shorter for Russ, so I think you could see Dart at the very end of the year, maybe around week 13 or week 14. Playoff teams, Commanders and Eagles. Easy enough. Your first, couple of divisions, it's not really hard to pick the playoff teams. This was the hardest division, though, that I had to predict. I went back and forth on this division. I'm not going to lie to you. Arizona Cardinals at number 4 at 8-9. The Cardinals are probably the best mid team in the NFL. That's probably the best way of saying this. I don't know what it's going to look like for Kyler Murray's future going forward. I know Jonathan Gannon has been a pretty decent head coach out there, but the truth is I don't know that they do anything great. I don't know that they do anything horrible. I think they're just kind of a team. 8-9 feels about right. Seahawks. I think they take a slight step back, even with Sam Darnold coming into play at quarterback, and they did have a very good draft. I'll get him that. Cooper Kupp now another weapon in there. The truth is that I don't think Darnold's going to have a season like he did last year, and I think the Seahawks regress one game after going 10-7 last year, and they go 9-8. San Francisco has a bounce-back year for sure. They were riddled with injuries. You get C-Mac back. Brock Purdy got paid. I think you're looking at a much more... Well, now I'll retract that. A less chaotic team than you had last year. And I think they get the train back on the tracks. I don't think they win the division, though, because at 10-7, you can clearly feel all the losses that they had in free agency and in the offseason. The Rams are going to win the NFC West. Obviously, I think this defense is the best in the division. Matt Stafford's got one more year left of really good play before I feel like he takes a step off, and I think they win the division outright. Players to keep an eye on, Sam Darnold, obviously. New team, what's it going to look like? Is he going to be, the same player he was last year? I don't think so, but he still obviously earned that contract extension. Brock Purdy, just getting the bag, $53 million a year, I think it was that he was getting. It's going to be interesting now to see, now that you've got your money, how are you going to look? And I think that's the big question that all 49ers fans have as well. Playoff teams. 49ers and Rams, this goes pretty much without saying. I think the Niners get a wild card spot. Rams win the division outright. I realize it's been a long video, and I apologize for that. It's June. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, and I feel like this was probably one of the most entertaining videos I could have made at this point during the offseason. So if you made it to the end, type real one. I didn't forget about the last division, though. Come on now. I didn't forget the NFC North, the best division in football. Yes. It's a hot take, but in my opinion, it's the truth. Okay. Vikings fans are going to hate me. I think the Vikings finished last. Last year was the dream season with Sam Darnold and got exposed in that playoff game against the Rams. They got obliterated. 9 sacks. So with J.J. McCarthy now coming in, and we have no idea what he's going to look like. It's essentially his rookie season, considering last year he was injured the entirety of the year, didn't see one game of action. So this is his first full year of starting. I don't necessarily know that the Vikings are going to be as good this year, considering they've got a rookie quarterback. So I'll just throw it up there, and I'm going to say the Vikings probably finish last. Now, the Bears are one of my bigger bounce-back teams. I don't think the Bears make the playoffs. I'm just going to spoil it for you. I think last year it was a roller coaster of a season. There was so much drama around Matt Eberflus and that entire coaching staff, also with Caleb Williams. Now, with Ben Johnson in there, I feel like it's so much more stable. And I think that's what you're going to see this year. I don't think that it's going to click year one between Caleb and Ben Johnson, although I do think they get a lot better, and they go 9-8 as well. Then the Green Bay Packers at 10-7, coming in number 2 at the division, the second place in this division, excuse me. Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur clearly have this, pretty decent relationship with each other, but the truth is that I don't know that the Packers have a good enough roster to compete for number 1 in the division, but 10-7 pretty much feels like exactly where they're going to be. That's what they went last year, and I don't think much changes because they didn't get better, but they also didn't get much worse. And of course, the division winner, the Detroit Lions, who also take a step back after losing both coordinators. So I still think the Lions, with the best roster in this entire division, win the division outright. But the truth is that you're not going to see the same, output that you're looking at from the Detroit Lions that you did last year under Ben Johnson, who was calling plays. Last year, they were just unbelievable. Every single game, it was almost impossible to beat the Detroit Lions. But this year, I think they take a little tiny step back. Players to keep an eye out. J.J. McCarthy, obviously. What's he going to look like? Is he the franchise guy? We don't know. With a loaded quarterback class coming in 2026, J.J. McCarthy could be a one and done. I don't know. We're going to have to see, though. And, of course, Caleb Williams. What's it going to look like under Ben Johnson? Despite having the worst coaching staff maybe in Bears history, Caleb Williams still had pretty solid rookie numbers. I don't want to call him good. I think they were a solid C+. He only threw 6 picks, but he did only throw 20 interceptions and for 3,500 yards. I think this is the first year that you actually see high production out of Caleb Williams. Playoff teams, Lions and Packers. Packers, again, probably going to end up getting a wild card spot. Lions end up winning the division, so they'll take whatever seed that is in the NFC. And there are your playoff teams and your predictions for the 2025 season here on NFL Daily by Chat Sports. I realize it was a really long video. Thanks for sticking around if you have. And as always, be cool.